He had always believed that million-dollar contracts were all that mattered in life. But when he met two twin girls begging in 9 languages at the airport, his world stopped. When one of them showed him a photo of their sick mother and he recognized the face as someone very important in his life, he broke down crying. What he did next surprised everyone. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The harsh winter wind of Manhattan whipped against Ethan Blackwood's face as he exited JFK International Airport, his Armani coat doing little to shield him from the biting cold. At 34, he had become one of Wall Street's most celebrated investment bankers, his face adorning the cover of Forbes just last month. The headline read, "The Golden Touch," how Ethan Blackwood turned millions into billions. Yet as the automatic doors closed behind him, all he felt was bone-deep exhaustion and a hollowness that seemed to echo with each step he took. The Tokyo deal had been grueling. 14-hour days of negotiations, fake smiles, and calculated small talk. But in the end, he'd secured the $2.3 billion merger that would cement his reputation as a financial prodigy. His phone buzzed incessantly with congratulatory messages that he couldn't bring himself to read. Numbers, that's all his life had become. Spreadsheets, profit margins, and bank statements with more zeros than he could have ever imagined when he'd started this journey 15 years ago. Ethan signaled for his driver, eager to retreat to his Upper East Side penthouse, where he could sink into silence. That's when he noticed them. 2 small identical figures huddled near the taxi stand, their matching red coats a splash of color against the gray winter backdrop. Twin girls no older than 6, with matching braids and serious expressions that seemed out of place on such young faces. "Excuse me, sir," one of them said in perfect English as he approached. "Would you be able to spare some money? We really need help." Before he could respond, the other girl added, "Nous avons besoin d'aide pour notre mère." Perfect French. "Nuestra madre está muy enferma," the first one continued in flawless Spanish. Ethan stopped in his tracks, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. The girls continued, switching seamlessly between languages, German, Italian, Mandarin, Arabic, Japanese, and Russian, each plea as fluent as the last. "How do you know so many languages?" he asked, genuinely intrigued despite his weariness. The twins exchanged a glance before the one on the left answered, "Our mum taught us. She says if we can speak to anyone's heart in their own language, they might listen." "And why do you need money?" Ethan found himself asking, even as his driver pulled up behind him. "Mum's really sick," the second twin explained, her voice trembling slightly. "She can't get out of bed, and we don't have money for a doctor." "She's been coughing a lot," the first added, digging into her pocket. "We have her picture. Maybe you know a doctor who could help." The girl held up a slightly crumpled photograph, and Ethan took it automatically. The world seemed to tilt beneath his feet as he stared at the face looking back at him. Those familiar hazel eyes, the gentle curve of her smile, the small beauty, marked just above her left eyebrow, Olivia Winters, the woman who had disappeared from his life 8 years ago with nothing but a hastily written note. "This is better for both of us. Please don't look for me." "What's your mom's name?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the airport noise. "Olivia," they answered in unison. "Olivia Winters." Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. Olivia. His Olivia. The one person who had seen beyond his ambition to the lost boy underneath. The woman whose absence had left a void he'd tried to fill with acquisitions and mergers. And these girls, they had her eyes, her delicate features. "And your names?" he managed to ask, though he already knew the answer. "I'm Sophie," said the guy, one who had spoken first. "And I'm Sarah," added her sister. "How old are you?" 6.5, they answered together. 6.5, the math wasn't difficult. Olivia had left 8 years ago, which meant she was already pregnant when she disappeared. These were her daughters. But were they also his? "Where is your mum now?" Ethan asked, making a split-second decision that would alter the course of his life. "At home," Sophie said. "We took the subway and then the bus to get here." "You traveled all this way by yourselves?" Ethan couldn't hide his shock. Sarah nodded solemnly. Mom always says we're smart and brave. She taught us how to use the subway map. Can you take me to her? Ethan asked, already signaling to his driver. The twins looked at each other, having a silent conversation that only they could understand. Finally, Sophie nodded. You look nice. Mom says we should trust our feelings about people. Ethan directed his driver to wait with his luggage and hailed a taxi instead. As they settled into the back seat, the girls gave the driver an address in Queens, a far cry from the luxury high-rises of Manhattan. During the ride, Ethan learned more about their situation. Olivia had lost her job at a translation agency 6 months ago and had been working 2 part-time positions since then, as a barista in the mornings and a remote translator in the evenings. But it hadn't been enough to cover rent, utilities, and food. She started getting sick 2 weeks ago, Sarah explained, her small hands folded neatly in her lap. But she kept going to work anyway. Until yesterday, Sophie continued. She couldn't get up and her face was really hot. And you've been taking care of her? Ethan asked, amazed at their composure. Both girls nodded. We make soup from the can and put cold towels on her head like she does when we're sick, Sarah said. The taxi pulled up to a weathered apartment building in a working-class neighborhood. Peeling paint and cracked concrete steps led to a security door with a broken intercom. Sophie produced a key from her coat pocket with practiced ease. We live on the 4th floor, she informed him. The elevator doesn't work most of the time. As they climbed the stairs, the contrast between this building and Ethan's luxury penthouse couldn't have been more stark. The narrow stairwell smelled of dampness and old cooking oil. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows on the graffiti-marked walls. When they reached apartment 4C, Sarah unlocked the door, calling out, "Mum, we're home. We brought someone to help." The apartment was small but meticulously clean, despite the obvious signs of wear and tear. A threadbare couch sat across from a small TV, and a tiny kitchen table held neatly stacked school books and papers. What struck Ethan most, however, was the abundance of books. They lined makeshift shelves and were stacked in careful piles near the couch. "Mom's in there," Sophie pointed to a door left slightly ajar. Ethan approached cautiously, his heart thundering in his chest. He gently pushed the door open to find a small bedroom with a single bed. And there she was, Olivia Winters, the woman whose memory had haunted him for 8 years. She lay curled on her side, her face flushed with fever, her once vibrant auburn hair damp with sweat against her pillow. "Olivia," he whispered, and her eyes fluttered open, confusion giving way to shock as she recognized him. "Ethan," her voice was raspy, disbelieving. "How did you—" A violent coughing fit interrupted her, and she struggled to catch her breath. "The girls found me at the airport," he explained, moving to her side. "They're quite the linguists." Olivia tried to sit up, panic flashing across her face. "You shouldn't be here. You need to go—" "I'm not going anywhere," Ethan said firmly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Hayo's burning up with fever and you need a doctor. Now." He turned to the twins, who stood watching from the doorway with solemn expressions. "Pack some things for your mom and yourselves. We're going to the hospital." Despite Olivia's weak protests, Ethan was already on the phone calling his personal physician. The twins moved with surprising efficiency, packing a small backpack with their mother's essentials, while Ethan helped Olivia sit up. "You don't understand," she whispered between labored breaths. "This isn't your problem." "It became my problem the moment your daughters approached me at the airport," Ethan replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Dr. Harrison is meeting us at Mount Sinai. My car will be here in 5 minutes." Olivia's eyes darted to the doorway where Sophie and Sarah stood watching. "The girls." "Will come with us," Ethan assured her. "I'm not leaving them alone." When his driver arrived, Ethan carefully helped Olivia down the 4 flights of stairs, supporting most of her weight. The twins followed silently, each carrying their own small backpack. Outside, snowflakes had begun to fall, dusting the grimy sidewalk with white. Ethan's sleek black SUV looked utterly out of place in this neighborhood, drawing curious glances from passers-by. "Nice car," Sophie whispered to her sister as they climbed into the back seat. "It probably costs more than our whole building," Sarah whispered back. Ethan pretended not to hear as he helped Olivia into the passenger seat, noting how light she felt in his arms, how prominent her collarbones were beneath her thin sweater. What had happened to the vibrant, ambitious woman he'd known? The Olivia he remembered had been pursuing a master's degree in international relations, dreaming of working for the United Nations. This Olivia seemed worn down, diminished somehow, though no less beautiful to him. The drive to Mount Sinai Hospital was tense with unspoken questions. In the rearview mirror, Ethan could see the twins whispering to each other, occasionally casting worried glances at their mother. Olivia drifted in and out of consciousness, her head resting against the window. At the hospital, Dr. Harrison was waiting for them at a private entrance, quickly assessing Olivia's condition before ordering a wheelchair. "Pneumonia from the sound of it," he muttered to Ethan. "We'll need to run tests, start antibiotics immediately." As the medical team whisked Olivia away, Ethan found himself alone with the twins in a private waiting room. They sat side by side on a plush sofa, their legs dangling above the floor, looking smaller and more vulnerable than they had at the airport. "Is Mum going to be okay?" Sarah asked, her voice small. Ethan sat down across from them, leaning forward to meet their eyes. "Yes, Dr. Harrison is one of the best doctors in New York. Your mum has what's called pneumonia. It's an infection in her lungs. That's why she's been coughing and has a fever, but with the right medicine she'll get better." "How long will it take?" Sophie pressed, ever practical. "A few days in the hospital probably, then she'll need to rest at home for a while." The twins exchanged another of their silent conversations before Sophie spoke again. "We can't pay for a hospital. Mum said hospitals are very expensive." The simple statement hit Ethan like a physical blow. These children, not even 7 years old, were worrying about medical bills while their mother lay seriously ill. "You don't need to worry about that," he assured them. "I'm taking care of it." "Why?" Sarah asked, tilting her head with genuine curiosity. "You just met us today." Ethan considered his answer carefully. "I knew your mom a long time ago. We were very good friends." "Before we were born?" Sophie questioned. "Yes," Ethan nodded. "Before you were born." Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you our dad?" The question hung in the air, loaded with possibilities. Ethan felt his heart constrict. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "But I'd like to help you and your mom if that's okay." Both girls nodded solemnly. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Harrison's return. He pulled Ethan aside, confirming the pneumonia diagnosis and explaining that Olivia would need to stay hospitalized for at least 3 days. "She's severely dehydrated and malnourished," the doctor added in a low voice. "This didn't develop. Overnight, Ethan, she's been running herself into the ground for some time." Ethan's jaw tightened as he glanced back at the twins. "Can I see her?" "She's being settled into a private room. You can see her briefly, but she needs rest. The antibiotics we've started should bring the fever down by morning." After assuring the twins that their mother was going to be fine and promising to take them to see her soon, Ethan followed a nurse to Olivia's room. She lay in the hospital bed, looking small against the white sheets, an IV line delivering fluids and antibiotics to her arm. Her eyes were closed, but they opened as he approached. "The girls?" she asked immediately. "Safe, waiting to see you," Ethan assured her. "Olivia, what happened 8 years ago? You just disappeared, and now I find you like this." She turned her face away. "You weren't supposed to find us. Ever." "Why?" The pain in his voice was unmistakable. "What did I do?" Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't you. It was never you." "Then why?" Before she could answer, a coughing fit seized her, and a nurse appeared, gently but firmly telling Ethan that his visit was over. "Mrs. Winters needs rest. You can come back in the morning." Outside in the hallway, Ethan paused, struck by the nurse's words. Mrs. Winters, not Ms. Winters. Had Olivia married after leaving him? Were the twins another man's daughters? The questions multiplied, but he pushed them aside. Right now the girls needed him. He returned to the waiting room to find Sophie and Sarah exactly as he'd left them, sitting quietly with perfect posture, their identical faces serious. These children had clearly been taught to take up as little space as possible, to be invisible when necessary. The thought filled him with a profound sadness. "Your mom is resting now," he told them. "She needs to stay here for a few days to get better. In the meantime, you'll stay with me." "At your house?" Sarah asked. "Yes, at my apartment." "Can we see Mom first?" Sophie requested. "Tomorrow morning," Ethan promised. "It's getting late, and I think we could all use some dinner and rest." As they left the hospital, Ethan realized he had no idea how to care for two 6-year-old girls. His penthouse, designed for entertaining business associates and the occasional overnight guest, contained nothing that would appeal to children. No toys, no children's books, not even a television in the guest bedroom where they would sleep. "You hungry?" he asked as they settled into the back seat of his SUV. The twins looked at each other before nodding hesitantly. "What would you like to eat?" Another silent exchange before Sophie answered, "Whatever is easy for you." "That's not what I asked," Ethan said gently. "What do you like to eat? What's your favorite food?" The girls seemed confused by the question, as if no one had ever asked for their preference before. "We like soup," Sarah offered finally, "and bread." "Anything else? Pizza, burgers, Chinese food?" Sophie's eyes widened slightly. "We've never had a hamburger before." "Never?" Ethan couldn't hide his surprise. "Mom says they're too expensive," Sarah explained matter-of-factly. "We have to be careful with money." In that moment, Ethan made a decision. "Well, tonight we're going to have hamburgers, the best in New York." He directed his driver to Minetta Tavern in Greenwich Village, home to what many considered the city's finest burger. As they drove through the glittering Manhattan streets, Ethan watched the twins' faces pressed against the window, taking in the Christmas decorations and store displays with wide-eyed wonder. At the restaurant, the maître d' recognized Ethan immediately, ushering them to his usual corner table despite their lack of reservations. The twins sat primly, carefully unfolding their napkins and placing them in their laps without being told. "You have very good manners," Ethan observed. "Mom taught us," Sophie said proudly. "She says good manners don't cost anything, but they're worth a lot." When their burgers arrived, sizzling and aromatic on thick white plates, the girls stared in amazement. "It's so big," Sarah whispered. "You don't have to finish it all," Ethan assured them. "Just eat what you can." He watched as they carefully cut their burgers into small pieces, taking tiny bites and chewing thoroughly. They ate slowly, methodically, savoring each bite as if committing it to memory. "Is it good?" he asked, barely touching his own meal as he observed them. They both nodded enthusiastically, but he noticed something strange. After eating about half of their burgers, they each carefully wrapped the remaining portion in their napkins. "What are you doing?" he asked gently. "Saving it for later," Sophie explained, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "This is too much for one meal." Ethan felt something crack inside his chest. These little girls, so accustomed to scarcity that they instinctively saved food for later, even at a fine restaurant. What kind of life had they been living? "You don't need to save it," he told them, keeping his voice steady despite the emotion welling up inside him. "If you're full now, that's fine, and if you're hungry later, we can get more food." The twins looked at him with identical expressions of confusion, then at each other, having another of their silent conferences. Finally, Sarah spoke for both of them. "Really? We can have more food later if we're hungry?" "Yes," Ethan promised. "You will never have to worry about being hungry again." Ethan's penthouse apartment occupied the entire top floor of a sleek glass tower overlooking Central Park. As the private elevator doors slid open directly into his foyer, he watched the twins' reactions carefully. Their eyes widened as they took in the sweeping views, the minimalist furniture, the abstract art on the walls, all carefully curated by an interior designer whose name Ethan could barely remember. "This is all your house?" Sarah asked in a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might break something. "Yes," Ethan answered, suddenly seeing his home through their eyes. cold, impersonal, a showplace rather than a sanctuary. When was the last time he'd actually enjoyed being here? The space felt more like a hotel suite than a home. Nothing in it reflected his personality or interests, assuming he even knew what those were anymore. "It's very clean," Sophie observed, standing perfectly still, her small hands clasped in front of her. "You can look around," Ethan encouraged them. "You're not going to break anything." The twins exchanged one of their silent glances before taking a few tentative steps into the living room. They moved with exaggerated care, keeping their arms close to their bodies, clearly afraid to touch anything. "Are you sure we can stay here?" Sarah asked. "We could wait at our apartment for Mom." "I'm absolutely sure," Ethan replied, setting down their small backpacks. "Your mum would want you to be safe and comfortable." He showed them to the guest bedroom, a minimalist space with a queen-sized bed and floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of the city. "Will we both fit in that bed?" Sophie asked practically. "Easily," Ethan assured them. "It's a big bed." He realized they would need pajamas and clothes for tomorrow. The small backpacks they'd brought contained little more than a change of underwear, toothbrushes, and a worn stuffed animal each. "How about we wash up and then find you something comfortable to sleep in?" he suggested. In his bedroom, Ethan rummaged through his dresser until he found 2 t-shirts that would serve as nightgowns for the girls. As he handed them over, he noticed Sophie staring at a framed photograph on his nightstand, the only personal item in the entire apartment. "Is that our mom?" she asked, pointing to the picture. Ethan picked up the frame and sat on the edge of his bed, patting the space beside him in invitation. The twins climbed up and settled on either side of him, leaning in to see the photograph. "Yes, that's your mum," he confirmed. "This was taken at Montauk on Long Island. We spent a weekend there about 9 years ago." In the photo, a younger Olivia laughed at the camera, her auburn hair whipping around her face in the ocean breeze, her eyes bright with joy. Ethan stood beside her, his arm around her waist, looking at her rather than the camera, his expression one of pure adoration. "Mom looks happy," Sarah observed. "She was," Ethan said softly. "We both were." "What happened?" Sophie asked, displaying that directness that seemed to characterize her personality. Ethan sighed, unsure how much to share. "We lost touch. Sometimes grown-ups make complicated decisions." After the girls had showered and changed into his t-shirts, which hung to their ankles like dresses, Ethan ordered hot chocolate from the building's concierge service. They sat at his rarely used dining table, the twins perched on stacked cushions to reach their mugs. "Do you have any questions?" Ethan asked. "About your mom, or staying here, or anything else?" The girls shared another of their silent communications before Sophie spoke. "When will Mum come home from the hospital?" "In a few days," Ethan replied. "Dr. Harrison thinks she'll need to stay for about 3 days to get the medicine she needs." "Will she come here?" Sarah asked. Ethan hesitated. "I hope so, but that will be up to your mom. We'll talk about it with her tomorrow when we visit." "Are you rich?" Sophie asked bluntly. The question caught Ethan off guard and he almost laughed. "I suppose I am, yes." "Mom says rich people aren't always happy," Sarah added, her small face serious as she sipped her hot chocolate. "Your mom is very wise," Ethan acknowledged. "Having money doesn't automatically make you happy." "Are you happy?" Sophie pressed. The question struck Ethan like a physical blow. When was the last time anyone had asked him that? When was the last time he'd even asked himself? He looked at these 2 little girls watching him with Olivia's eyes, waiting for his honest answer, and found he couldn't lie. "Not really," he admitted. "I have a lot of things, but that's not the same as being happy." The twins nodded as if this confirmed something they already suspected. "Mum says happiness comes from inside you, not from things," Sarah offered. "Your mum is right about that too," Ethan said, feeling a lump form in his throat. What had he been doing these past 8 years? Accumulating wealth, power, accolades, none of which had filled the emptiness Olivia had left behind. After finishing their hot chocolate, Ethan realized he had no idea what bedtime routine children might need. "Do you usually read before bed?" he asked, remembering the stacks of books in their apartment. Both girls nodded eagerly. "Mom always reads to us," Sophie said, "but we didn't bring our books." "I might have something," Ethan said, leading them back to the bedroom. On his bookshelf, mostly filled with financial texts and biographies of business leaders, he found a copy of The Little Prince that an ex-girlfriend had given him years ago. He'd never read it. The twins settled into the big bed, their small bodies nearly swallowed by the plush duvet. Ethan sat on the edge and began to read. "Once when I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent picture in a book called True Stories from Nature." He read until both girls' eyelids grew heavy, their breathing deep and even. As he closed the book and turned off the bedside lamp, Sarah stirred slightly. "Thank you for helping our mum," she murmured sleepily. Ethan sat there in the semi-darkness, watching these two little girls who had turned his carefully ordered life upside down in the span of a single day. Who were they really, and who was he to them? The questions that had been building all day surged forward, demanding attention. Back in his living room, Ethan poured himself a glass of scotch and stood by the window, looking out at the glittering city. His phone buzzed with messages he continued to ignore. His assistant, his partners, clients wanting to congratulate him on the Tokyo deal. None of it seemed to matter now. 8 years ago, Olivia had vanished from his life without warning. They'd been together for nearly 2 years, had talked about marriage, about building a life together. Then one morning he'd woken to find her side of the bed empty and a note on the kitchen counter. "This is better for both of us. Please don't look for me." He had looked, of course, hired private investigators, called her friends, her professors, even traveled to her hometown in Connecticut to speak with her estranged father. No one knew where she'd gone, or claimed not to know. Eventually, he'd accepted that she didn't want to be found and buried himself in work, building his financial empire as if success could fill the hole she'd left. And now here she was, living in poverty just across the East River, raising 2 daughters who might be his. The timing certainly fit. The twins were 6.5, which would place their conception right around the time Olivia disappeared. But if they were his children, why had she kept them from him? What could possibly justify denying him the knowledge of their existence? Anger flared hot and sudden, only to be doused by the memory of the twins carefully wrapping half their burgers to save for later. Whatever Olivia's reasons, the girls were innocent. And they'd been living in conditions no child should have. To endure, worried about money, about food, taking the subway alone at 6 years old to beg for help from strangers. His resolve hardened. Regardless of whether the twins were biologically his, they needed him now. And despite everything, he still cared deeply for Olivia. He wouldn't let them struggle any longer. The next morning, Ethan woke to the unfamiliar sound of whispered voices in his apartment. For a moment, he was disoriented. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back. He threw on a robe and followed the sound to the kitchen, where he found Sophie and Sarah sitting at the counter, having what appeared to be an intense discussion. "Good morning," he said, and they both jumped slightly, turning to him with matching expressions of concern. "We didn't want to wake you," Sophie explained, "but we didn't know if we were allowed to open the refrigerator." Once again, Ethan was struck by how these children had been conditioned to expect scarcity, to ask permission for the most basic necessities. "You're allowed to open anything in this apartment," he told them firmly. "The refrigerator, the cupboards, anything. This is your home while you're staying here." Relief washed over their small faces, and Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness so powerful it almost took his breath away. "How about I make us breakfast?" he offered, opening the refrigerator to survey its meager contents. He rarely ate at home, usually grabbing coffee and a bagel on his way to the office or having meals at restaurants with clients. "I can make eggs and toast," he decided, pulling out a carton of eggs that his housekeeper must have purchased. "Then we'll get dressed and go see your mum. After that, I thought we might do some shopping." "Shopping for what?" Sarah asked, her legs swinging from the high counter stool. "Clothes for you and your mum, some toys, books, whatever you need to be comfortable here." The twins exchanged another of their looks. "But those things cost a lot of money," Sophie said practically. "Remember what I told you last night?" Ethan reminded her gently as he cracked eggs into a bowl. "I have enough money, and I want to help you and your mum." As they ate breakfast, the girls once again taking small, careful bites and chewing thoroughly, Ethan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen to see his assistant's name and silenced it. Work could wait. For the first time in years, something more important had entered his life. After breakfast, Ethan helped the twins get dressed in the clothes they'd worn yesterday, making a mental note to buy them new outfits as soon as possible. As they were preparing to leave, his phone rang again, this time displaying Mom on the screen. Eleanor Blackwood called every Sunday morning without fail, a ritual that had persisted through his adult life. Ethan hesitated, then answered. "Mom, I can't talk right now. I'll call you later." "Ethan, are you all right? Martin said you never came into the office yesterday after your flight, and you're not answering messages." "I'm fine, Mom. Something came up. I'll explain later." What could be more important than the Tokyo merger? The board is expecting... "Mom, I really have to go," Ethan interrupted. "I'll call you tonight." He ended the call before she could protest further. Eleanor Blackwood, widow of banking magnate William Blackwood, had dedicated herself to her only son's career after her husband's passing when Ethan was just 20. She had groomed him to take over the family business, orchestrating his rise through Blackwood Financial with single-minded determination. She had also, Ethan recalled with a sudden chill, thoroughly disapproved of Olivia. "She's lovely, darling, but not right for someone in your position," Eleanor had said after meeting her. "No family connections, no fortune of her own, she'll only hold you back." Ethan had defended Olivia, of course, but looking back, he wondered if he'd done so forcefully enough. Had his mother's disapproval played a role in Olivia's sudden departure? It was another question to add to the growing list. At the hospital, they found Olivia sitting up in bed, her color much improved from the previous day. She looked apprehensive as they entered, her eyes darting between Ethan and her. "Daughters?" "Mom!" the twins cried in unison, rushing to the bed. Olivia embraced them tightly, closing her eyes as if to savor the feeling of holding them. "We stayed at Mr. Blackwood's house," Sophie reported. "It's very big and has windows everywhere." "And we had hamburgers for dinner," Sarah added excitedly. "And hot chocolate." Olivia's gaze met Ethan's over the tops of their heads. "Thank you for taking care of them," she said softly. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." "Don't," Ethan replied, moving closer to the bed. "I didn't do it expecting repayment." The twins, sensing the tension between the adults, clambered onto the visitor's chair in the corner, giving them space to talk. "Olivia," Ethan began, keeping his voice low, "we need to discuss what happens next. Dr. Harrison says you'll be released in a couple of days, but you'll need rest and follow-up care. I want you to come stay at my apartment with the girls." She shook her head immediately. "That's not necessary. We'll be fine at our place." "Will you?" Ethan challenged, his frustration breaking through. "Your daughters were riding the subway alone to beg strangers for money. They ration food because they're afraid there won't be enough. Is that what you call fine?" Olivia flinched as if he'd slapped her. "You have no right to judge me," she whispered fiercely. "You have no idea what I've been through." "Then tell me," Ethan implored. "Tell me why you left. Tell me why you kept my daughters from me for nearly 7 years." The accusation hung in the air between them, charged with years of unspoken hurt and questions. Olivia's face paled, her eyes darting to the twins who were thankfully engrossed in a picture book a nurse had brought them. "They're not," she began, then stopped, swallowing hard. "Ethan, it's complicated." Before she could continue, Dr. Harrison entered the room with a clipboard in hand. "Good morning, everyone. Mrs. Winters. Your latest tests show significant improvement. The antibiotics are working well." Ethan stepped back, his question unanswered but not forgotten. The doctor reviewed Olivia's treatment plan while the twins listened attentively, as if they were responsible for their mother's care. "If everything continues to progress, you should be able to go home day after tomorrow," Dr. Harrison concluded. "Thank you, Doctor," Olivia said, her voice still weak but steadier than the day before. After the doctor left, Ethan suggested taking the twins to the cafeteria for lunch, giving Olivia time to rest. She agreed gratefully, her eyelids already drooping from the medication. In the elevator, Sophie looked up at Ethan with searching eyes. "Are you mad at our mom?" The directness of the question caught him off guard. "No, not mad," he answered, carefully. "Just confused about some things that happened a long time ago." "Mom says confusion is just a step on the path to understanding," Sarah offered solemnly. Ethan smiled despite himself. "Your mum has taught you some very wise things." After lunch in the hospital cafeteria, where the twins once again attempted to save portions of their food until Ethan gently reminded them they didn't need to, he decided it was time for the shopping he'd promised. The girls were still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, and the weather forecast predicted a significant snowstorm for the evening. Their first stop was a children's boutique on Madison Avenue, where the salespeople fawned over the twins, bringing out outfit after outfit for them to try on. Sophie and Sarah seemed overwhelmed by the attention and options, standing still as mannequins, while the staff cooed over how adorable they looked in everything. "Which ones do you like?" Ethan asked them privately when the saleswoman stepped away. The twins exchanged their silent communication before Sophie answered hesitantly. "The blue dresses were nice. And the warm sweaters," Sarah added. "Our apartment gets very cold sometimes." Ethan felt another pang at this reminder of their precarious living situation. "We'll take all of them," he told the saleswoman when she returned. "And the coats, boots, pajamas, and everything else they need." The woman's eyes lit up at the prospect of such a large sale. "Shall I have everything delivered to your address, Mr. Blackwood?" "Yes, except for one outfit each and the new coats. They'll wear those out." Next, they visited a toy store, where Ethan encouraged the twins to select whatever caught their interest. To his surprise, they gravitated not toward the electronic toys or expensive dolls, but toward art supplies, books, and educational games. "Mom says imagination is more important than expensive toys," Sophie explained when Ethan asked about their choices. By late afternoon, as they headed back to Ethan's apartment with their purchases, snow had begun falling in earnest. Weather alerts buzzed on Ethan's phone, warning of a major storm system moving through the northeast. "Looks like we made it back just in time," he commented as they rode the elevator up to his penthouse. "They're saying this could be the biggest snowstorm of the season." The twins looked at each other with worried expressions. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, noticing their exchange. "Our apartment leaks when it snows a lot," Sarah explained, "and sometimes the heat stops working. The wind makes the whole building shake," Sophie added, her voice small. "It's scary." "Well, you don't have to worry about that here," Ethan assured them as they entered his apartment. "This building is very strong, and we have backup generators if the power goes out." He helped them unpack their new clothes and toys, clearing space in the guest room closet and drawers. The girls handled each item with reverence, carefully hanging up dresses and arranging books on the nightstand. As evening fell, the storm intensified. Wind howled around the corners of the building, and snow pelted against the floor-to-ceiling. Windows like tiny white bullets. Ethan ordered pizza for dinner, which the twins declared was even better than hamburgers, though they still ate with their characteristic care and deliberation. After dinner, as they sat in the living room with Faikui, cups of hot chocolate, a particularly strong gust of wind rattled the windows, causing both girls to jump. Then, with a flicker, the lights went out, plunging the apartment into darkness. "It's okay," Ethan said quickly, hearing twin gasps of fear. "The emergency lights will come on in a second." Sure enough, dim backup lighting illuminated the space, casting long shadows across the furniture. But the twins had already scrambled to huddle together on the couch, their eyes wide with fear. "I don't like the dark," Sarah whispered, clutching her sister's hand. "Me neither," Sophie admitted, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable. Ethan moved to sit beside them, his mind racing to find a way to comfort them. "You know what my mom used to do when I was scared during storms?" he asked, surprising himself with the childhood memory. "She would build a fort out of blankets and pillows, and we'd hide inside with flashlights telling stories until the storm passed." The twins looked at him with cautious interest. "Want to try it?" he offered. After a moment's hesitation, they nodded in unison. Ethan gathered every blanket and pillow he could find, which wasn't many in his minimalist apartment, and rearranged the furniture in the living room to create a framework. With the twins' help, he draped blankets over the backs of chairs and the couch, creating a cozy tent in the center of the room. He found a flashlight in a kitchen drawer and brought it inside their makeshift fort, along with more pillows and the remaining snacks from their shopping trip. Inside the blanket fort, the howling wind seemed distant, less threatening. The twins nestled among the pillows, their faces ghostly in the flashlight's glow. For the first time since he'd met them, they looked like the 6-year-old children they were, rather than miniature adults carrying the weight of adult worries. "Better?" Ethan asked, sitting cross-legged across from them. They nodded, small smiles appearing on their faces. "In our old apartment," Sophie began, "when it storms like this, the ceiling in the bathroom drips, and we have to put pots underneath. And the windows shake so much we think they might break," Sarah added. "Once the power was out for 2 whole days. We had to eat cold food from cans." "That sounds scary," Ethan acknowledged. "Mom makes it better," Sophie said loyally. "She tells us stories and sings songs." "Would you like me to tell you a story?" Ethan offered. The twins nodded eagerly. Ethan thought for a moment, then began. "Once upon a time, there was a prince who lived in a tall tower. Everyone thought he had everything he could ever want: gold, jewels, fine clothes. But the prince was lonely. His tower was so high that no one ever came to visit him." "Why didn't he go down from the tower?" Sarah interrupted, practical as ever. "He was afraid," Ethan explained. "He'd been in the tower so long that he'd forgotten how to talk to regular people. He thought they wouldn't like him if they knew he was just an ordinary person inside, not really a prince at all." Sophie nodded sagely, as if this made perfect sense to her. "One day," Ethan continued, "a beautiful bird flew in through his window. It had bright red feathers and sang the most wonderful songs. The prince fell in love with the bird and its songs. For the first time, he wasn't lonely anymore." "But then the bird flew away?" Sarah guessed, her eyes serious in the flashlight's glow. Ethan nodded, surprised by her intuition. "Yes, the bird flew away without saying goodbye. The prince looked everywhere but couldn't find it. He became sadder than ever before." "That's a sad story," Sophie commented with a frown. "I'm not finished," Ethan assured her. "Years later, the prince heard singing outside his tower. When he looked down, he saw not one but 3 red birds in the garden below. The biggest one was the bird that had visited him before, and with her were 2 baby birds who sang just as beautifully." "Did he go down from the tower?" Sarah asked hopefully. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice growing thick with emotion. "For the first time in his life, the prince wasn't afraid anymore. He ran down all the stairs of the tower and into the garden, and do you know what he discovered?" The twins shook their heads, leaning forward in anticipation. "He discovered that the birds were actually people under an enchantment. The mother bird was a beautiful princess who had visited him years ago but had to leave because of the enchantment. And the 2 baby birds were her daughters." "Were they his daughters too?" Sophie asked, her gaze penetrating. Ethan swallowed hard. He didn't know, but he hoped they were, because they were the most wonderful, smart, brave little girls he'd ever met. "What happened next?" Sarah pressed when Ethan fell silent. "I'm not sure yet," Ethan admitted. "The story isn't finished." The twins considered this, having another of their silent conversations. "I think," Sophie said finally, "the prince should tell the princess that he missed her very much when she was gone, and that he wants to help take care of the baby. Birds," Sarah added, "even if they're not his," Sophie concluded firmly. Ethan felt tears prick his eyes, amazed at these children's wisdom and capacity for forgiveness. "I think you're right," he managed to say. "That's exactly what the prince should do." A comfortable silence fell over their little fort. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but within their blanket cocoon, a sense of peace had settled. "Ethan," Sarah said after a while, her voice small and tentative, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Have you ever been a dad before?" The question caught him completely off guard. "No," he answered honestly. "I've never been a dad." "Would you want to be our dad?" she continued, her expression earnest. "Since we don't have one." Ethan felt his heart constrict painfully in his chest. He began, then had to clear his throat. I would be honored to be your dad, but that's something we'd need to talk about with your mom too. We've never had a dad, Sophie explained. The other kids at school have dads who pick them up and bring them toys and take them to baseball games. Mom says some families just have a mom, and that's okay, Sarah added. But sometimes, when she thinks we're asleep, she cries. Ethan didn't know how to respond to this revelation. The thought of Olivia crying alone in the dark, trying to be both mother and father to these remarkable little girls while struggling to keep them fed and housed, was almost more than he could bear. Your mom is amazing, he told them sincerely. She's raised you to be incredible people. But everyone needs help sometimes, even grown-ups, especially grown-ups. The twins nodded solemnly. I promise you this, Ethan continued, feeling the weight of his words. No matter what happens between me and your mom, I will always be here for both of you. You will never have to worry about food or a safe place to live or books for school. Never again. Sophie studied his face intently, as if searching for any sign of insincerity. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded once, decisively. I believe you, she declared. Me too, Sarah agreed, her expression equally serious. Something shifted in the atmosphere of their little fort, a connection forming that transcended biology and time. Whether or not he was their biological father, Ethan knew in that moment that these two little girls had claimed a permanent place in his heart. Since we're telling secrets, he said, lightening his tone, would you like to know something almost? Nobody knows about me. The twins nodded eagerly. I'm terrified of spiders, he confessed in a stage whisper, even the tiny ones. Once I found one in my shower and screamed so loud that my neighbor called to check if I was okay. The girls erupted into giggles, the sound so pure and joyful that Ethan couldn't help laughing too. Soon they were all breathless with mirth, the storm forgotten as they shared more silly secrets and stories. Eventually the twins began to yawn, their eyelids growing heavy despite their efforts to stay awake. I think it's bedtime, Ethan announced, checking his watch to find it was nearly 10 o'clock. Can we sleep in the fort? Sarah asked sleepily. Ethan considered the request. It wasn't the most comfortable arrangement, but they seemed so content here, protected from the storm both outside and within. Sure, he agreed. Let me get your pillows and blankets from the bedroom. By the time he returned with proper bedding, both girls were already dozing, curled together like puppies seeking warmth. Gently, he covered them with blankets and turned off the flashlight, leaving only the dim emergency lighting to illuminate the space. As he watched them sleep, Ethan felt a fierce protectiveness unlike anything he'd experienced before. These children had suffered hardships no child should face, yet they remained kind, thoughtful, and wise beyond their years. Whatever had happened between him and Olivia in the past, whatever secrets still lay between them, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would do everything in his power to ensure these girls never faced such hardships again. Outside, the storm raged on, snow accumulating on the balcony and windowsills. But inside the blanket fort, in the heart of Ethan's once cold apartment, a different kind of storm was brewing, one that would forever alter the careful walls he'd built. Around his heart, morning arrived with brilliant sunshine that transformed Manhattan into a glittering wonderland of white. The storm had dumped nearly 18 inches of snow overnight, bringing the city to a temporary standstill. Schools were closed, flights cancelled, and even the New York Stock Exchange had delayed its opening. Ethan awoke to find himself still in the blanket fort, his neck stiff from sleeping in an awkward position. The twins were already awake, whispering to each other as they often did. Good morning, he greeted them, his voice rough with sleep. The snow stopped, Sophie informed him, pointing toward the windows, and the lights are back on. Indeed, the apartment's regular lighting had been restored sometime during the night. Ethan checked his phone to find several missed calls from his office and a text from Dr. Harrison confirming that Olivia was continuing to improve. Who wants breakfast? He asked, crawling out of their makeshift tent. While the twins brushed their teeth and changed into new clothes, Ethan made pancakes, a skill he'd almost forgotten he possessed. His mother had taught him on Sunday mornings when he was a boy, before his father's death, before Blackwood Financial consumed both their lives. "These are amazing," Sarah declared, taking a careful bite of her syrup-drenched pancake. "They're almost as good as Mom's," Sophie agreed, which Ethan took as high praise. After breakfast, Ethan called his assistant to explain his absence. "I'm taking personal time, Diane, indefinitely. Reschedule all my meetings for the next week and have Jeremy handle the Tokyo follow-ups." "Indefinitely," Diane repeated, her shock evident even over the phone. "Mr. Blackwood, you haven't taken a day off in 3 years." "I'm aware," Ethan replied. "Something important has come up. I'll check in later this week." His next call was to the property management company, listed on the rent notice he'd found in Olivia's apartment while gathering clothes for her hospital stay. The amount past due was shocking, not because it was large, but because it was so small compared to what he spent without thought on a daily basis. 3 months of Olivia's rent wouldn't cover the cost of his last business dinner. "I'd like to pay the outstanding balance for Unit 4C, he told the property manager, "and prepay for the next 6 months. After confirming the payment details, Ethan added, "Also, I noticed some maintenance issues in the building. Leaky ceilings, unreliable heat, broken elevator and intercom. Those need to be addressed immediately." "Sir, with all due respect, that building is scheduled for major renovations next year. We're only doing essential repairs until then." "Heat and a functioning elevator are essential," Ethan countered, his voice taking on the steely edge that had made him notorious in boardrooms. "I'm sure the housing authority would agree. In fact, I'd be happy to call them myself." The manager backpedaled quickly. "Of course, Mr. Blackwood. I'll send maintenance out today." "Good. I'll be checking to ensure the work is completed." After ending the call, Ethan looked up to find the twins watching him with identical expressions of curiosity. "Were you being a businessman?" Sophie asked. Ethan smiled. "Something like that. I was making sure your apartment gets fixed up while you're staying here. So the ceiling won't leak anymore?" Sarah asked hopefully. "That's right. And the elevator will work, and the heat will stay on during storms." The twins exchanged one of their silent conversations before Sophie nodded decisively. "You're good at being a businessman." "Thank you," Ethan replied, strangely touched by the simple compliment. "Now, what would you like to do today? The roads are still being cleared, so we can't visit your mum until this afternoon." The girls requested exploring the building, curious about what a luxury apartment tower contained. Ethan took them to the indoor pool, the resident lounge, and the rooftop garden, now covered in pristine snow. The twins marveled at each amenity, asking thoughtful questions about who maintained these spaces and whether the other residents were all businessmen like Ethan. By early afternoon, the main roads had been cleared enough for them to venture out. Ethan's driver navigated the slushy streets carefully as they made their way to Mount Sinai Hospital. On the way, they stopped at a florist where the twins selected a colorful bouquet for their mother. Olivia was sitting up in bed when they arrived, looking markedly better than the day before. Color had returned to her cheeks and her eyes were clear and alert. She smiled broadly as the twins rushed to embrace her, exclaiming over the flowers and eager to share stories about the blanket fort and the snowstorm. "It sounds like you had quite an adventure," Olivia said, her eyes meeting Ethan's over the girls' heads. There was something in her gaze he couldn't quite decipher. Gratitude, certainly, but also wariness and perhaps a hint of fear. "Girls," Ethan said after they'd exhausted their tales, "I saw a gift shop downstairs with some interesting books. Would you like to pick one out for your mum to read while she's here?" The twins agreed enthusiastically, and a nurse offered to accompany them, leaving Ethan and Olivia alone for the first time since their confrontation the previous day. And awkward silence stretched between them until they both began speaking simultaneously. "Ethan, Olivia, we need..." They stopped, and Ethan gestured for her to continue. Olivia took a deep breath. "I owe you an explanation. Many explanations, actually." "Yes," Ethan agreed, pulling a chair close to her bedside. But first, I want you to know that, regardless of what happened in the past, I've made arrangements to ensure you and the girls are secure. I've paid your back rent and the next 6 months in advance. I've also instructed the management company to fix the elevator, the leaks, and the heating system. Olivia's eyes widened. Ethan, you didn't need to do that. I can't repay. I don't want repayment, he interrupted. What I want is the truth, all of it. She looked down at her hands, thin and pale against the hospital blanket. Where should I start? 8 years ago, Ethan said, the day you disappeared from my life. Olivia nodded, as if she'd been expecting this. I found out I was pregnant, she began simply. We'd been careful, but obviously not careful enough. I was terrified and thrilled all at once. We'd talked about marriage, about a future together, but children weren't part of our immediate plans. You didn't think I'd want our baby? Ethan asked, hurt evident in his voice. It wasn't that simple, Olivia sighed. A few days before, I'd had lunch with your mother. Ethan stiffened. Eleanor Blackwood had always been politely cool toward Olivia, but he hadn't suspected outright interference. She invited me to the club, Olivia continued. Just the two of us. I thought maybe she was finally warming up to me, maybe even planning to help with our engagement. Instead, she laid out all the reasons why I was wrong for you. What reasons? Ethan demanded, though he could guess. No family connections, no fortune, no understanding of the world you inhabited. She said I would hold you back, that you were destined for greatness in the financial world, and a wife with my background would be an impediment. Olivia's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. She had clippings, Ethan, articles about you, predictions about your future, charts showing how Blackwood Financial had grown since you joined. She'd mapped out your entire career. That doesn't explain why you left, Ethan pressed. We could have faced her together. There's more, Olivia admitted. She knew about the baby. What? How? I'd left a pregnancy test wrapper in your bathroom trash. The housekeeper found it, told your mother. Eleanor said she'd support you seeking full custody if I tried to trap you with a child. Olivia's voice broke. She had lawyers, Ethan. Resources I couldn't imagine. She made it clear that if I stayed, I'd either lose my baby or watch you give up everything you'd worked for. Ethan sat back, stunned. He'd known his mother was ambitious for him, knew she could be calculating, but this level of manipulation was beyond what he'd imagined. So you ran, he concluded. Olivia nodded. I was 23, terrified and alone. My dad was barely speaking to me since I'd chosen to stay in New York instead of returning to Connecticut after graduation. I had no family support, no resources to fight someone like Eleanor Blackwood. Where did you go? Boston, initially. I had a college friend there who let me stay on her couch. I found work as a receptionist at an international shipping company. Low pay but good health insurance for the pregnancy. That's when I discovered I was having twins. Ethan felt a jolt. The girls are mine. Olivia's expression clouded. No, she said softly. They're not. The admission hit Ethan like a physical blow. I don't understand. In Boston, I met someone. Michael Winters. He worked at the shipping company. Charismatic, kind. He knew I was pregnant, but didn't seem to care. We started dating and things moved quickly. By the time I was showing we were living together, he proposed, saying he wanted to be a father to my baby. But if the twins are his, why are you raising them alone? Ethan asked, trying to process this unexpected turn. Because when I told him it was twins, he panicked. 2 babies meant twice the expense, twice the responsibility. One night when I was 7 months pregnant, I came home to find him gone. Clothes, personal items, everything. He left a check for $5,000 and a note saying he wasn't ready to be a father at all, let alone to 2 children. Anger surged through Ethan. Anger at this unknown man who had abandoned Olivia when she needed him most. Anger at his mother for driving Olivia away in the first place. And anger at himself for not searching harder, for not finding her when she was alone and frightened. After the girls were born, Olivia continued, I struggled. Boston was expensive, and childcare for twins was impossible on my salary. I moved to Providence, then to Hartford, taking whatever jobs I could find that would let me work around the girls' schedule. Eventually, I ended up back in New York because the translation agency offered flexible hours and decent pay, but then they downsized, and I've been piecing together work ever since. "Why didn't you contact me?" Ethan asked, the question that had been burning inside him. "Even if the twins weren't mine, I would have helped you." "Pride at first," Olivia admitted. "Then shame. And honestly, Ethan, your life moved on. I saw you in the financial papers climbing higher and higher, dating socialites and models. What place did I have in that world?" "You had every place," Ethan said fiercely. "Those relationships meant nothing. None of it meant anything without you." Olivia looked at him with sad eyes. "You only say that now. But would you have said it then? Would you have welcomed a single mother with twin daughters who weren't yours? Would you have risked your mother's disapproval, your colleagues' judgment?" The question struck at the heart of Ethan's carefully constructed self-image. Would he have had the courage then to defy expectations, to choose love over ambition? He wasn't sure, and his uncertainty must have shown on his face. "That's what I thought," Olivia said softly. "You've built an impressive life, Ethan. I wouldn't have fit into it." "And now?" he challenged. "Do you think you fit into it now?" She looked away. "I don't know. Everything's happening so fast. 3 days ago, I was just trying to figure out how to pay the rent and keep the girls in school. Now you're back in our lives, paying our rent, taking care of the twins." "I want to do more than that," Ethan said, reaching for her hand. "Olivia, when you left, it broke something in me. I threw myself into work because nothing else seemed to matter. I've accumulated more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but I've never been happy, not once in 8 years." "Ethan, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "When the twins found me at the airport, it was like the universe was giving me a second chance, not just with you, but with life itself. These past few days with Sophie and Sarah have shown me what I've been missing. They're extraordinary children, Olivia. You've done an amazing job raising them." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "They are amazing, aren't they? Sometimes I look at them and can't believe they're mine. They're so smart, so resilient. They've never complained even when things were at their worst." "They told me they've never had a father," Ethan said carefully, "that the other kids at school have dads who pick them up and take them to baseball games." Olivia closed her eyes, pain etched on her face. "I've tried to be enough for them. I've tried so hard." "You have been," Ethan assured her, "but you don't have to do it alone anymore." "What are you saying, Ethan?" "I'm saying I want to be part of your lives, yours and the girls. I'm saying that biology doesn't matter to me. Sophie and Sarah need a father, and I—" He paused, the truth overwhelming in its simplicity. "I need them. And you. I need my family back." "Family," Olivia repeated, the word hanging between them like a question and an answer all at once. Before she could say more, the door opened, and the twins burst in, clutching a colorful picture book about Central Park in winter. "Mom, look what we found," Sophie exclaimed. "It has all the places we want to visit when it stops snowing." "The nurse said we could keep it," Sarah added. "She said it was a donation." Olivia smiled, quickly wiping away her tears. "It's beautiful, girls. We'll read it together later." The twins settled on either side of her bed, opening the book to show their favorite illustrations. Ethan watched the three of them together, Olivia with an arm around each daughter, their identical auburn heads bent over the pages, their voices overlapping with excitement, and felt a certainty he hadn't experienced in years. This was what he wanted. This was what mattered. As if sensing his thoughts, Olivia looked up and met his gaze. Something had shifted in her eyes. The wariness was still there, but alongside it was a cautious hope. "Dr. Harrison says I can leave tomorrow." "Morning," she said. "The girls told me you've invited us to stay at your apartment." "Yes," Ethan confirmed, "until you're fully recovered. After that, well, we can figure it out together." Olivia nodded slowly. "Together," she repeated, as if testing the word. "I think I'd like that." For the first time in 8 years, Ethan felt the cold, empty space inside him begin to warm. It wasn't a resolution. Too much remained unsaid, too many adjustments lay ahead. But it was a beginning, a family, forming in the most unexpected way, his family. As he left the hospital that evening, the twins chattering excitedly about their mother coming home tomorrow, Ethan realized he had one more confrontation ahead, perhaps the most difficult one. It was time to speak with Eleanor Blackwood about her role in separating him from Olivia all those years ago, and about the future he now envisioned that would undoubtedly conflict with her carefully laid plans. His phone rang as they entered the apartment, his mother's name flashing on the screen. It seemed the conversation would happen sooner rather than later. Ethan stared at his phone, his mother's name flashing insistently on the screen. The twins looked up at him expectantly as they removed their coats in the foyer. "Why don't you two pick out a movie to watch?" he suggested, handing them the remote. "I need to take this call." As the girls settled on the couch, flipping through the streaming options with careful deliberation, Ethan stepped onto the balcony and answered the phone. "Mother," he greeted, his voice carefully neutral. "Ethan, finally," Eleanor Blackwood's crisp voice came through. "I've been trying to reach you for days. The board is concerned about your sudden absence, especially with the Tokyo merger still in its critical phase." "The merger is proceeding as planned," Ethan replied. "Jeremy has everything under control." "Jeremy is not a Blackwood," Eleanor said dismissively. "The clients expect to deal with you personally. You need to come back to the office immediately." "That's not possible right now. What could possibly be more important than Blackwood Financial at this juncture? We're on the verge of the largest expansion in company history." Ethan took a deep breath, watching through the glass doors as Sophie and Sarah laughed at something on the television. "I've reconnected with Olivia Winters." The silence that followed was so complete that Ethan wondered if the call had dropped. Then his mother's voice returned, tightly controlled. "I see. And how did this happen?" "Her daughters found me at the airport. They were begging for money to help their sick mother." He let the implications of that sink in. "Did you know she had twins, Mother? Did you know she's been struggling to survive while I've been building an empire I don't even enjoy?" "Ethan, you're clearly emotional right now. We should discuss this in person. I'll come to your apartment." "No," Ethan interrupted firmly. "I know what you did, Mother. Olivia told me about your lunch date, about your threats regarding custody." Another silence, longer this time. When Eleanor spoke again, her voice had taken on the reasonable tone she used in difficult negotiations. "I did what was necessary to protect you and the company. That girl would have derailed everything we'd worked for. You were too young, too infatuated to see it." "That girl was the love of my life," Ethan replied, anger rising despite his efforts to remain calm. "And those children, her children, could have been mine." "But they're not, are they?" Eleanor countered quickly, revealing that she'd had Olivia investigated. "They're the offspring of some shipping clerk who abandoned them." "Really, Ethan, you can't be serious about involving yourself with this situation." Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. "That situation is a family, Mother, a family I intend to be part of." "Don't be ridiculous," Eleanor snapped, her careful control slipping. "You have responsibilities, a legacy to uphold. The Blackwood name means something in this city." "Yes, it does," Ethan agreed. "And I'm beginning to question what exactly it means. Does it stand for intimidating pregnant women? For valuing profit? Over people? For empty penthouses and loveless relationships?" "You're being melodramatic," Eleanor dismissed. "This is about the future of our family business, about everything your father built." "No, Mother, this is about my life, my happiness. For 8 years, I've lived according to your plans, your ambitions. I've made more money than we could spend in 10 generations. But I've never been happy, not once since Olivia left. Happiness is a luxury, Ethan, not a right. Your father understood that." "Did he?" Ethan challenged. "Or did you decide that for him too?" The barb hit its mark. Eleanor's sharp intake of breath was audible. "You've gone too far." "No, Mother, I haven't gone far enough. For years I've allowed you to control my life, to make decisions that should have been mine. That ends now. What exactly are you saying? Eleanor's voice had gone cold. I'm saying that Olivia and her daughters will be coming to live with me when she's released from the hospital tomorrow. I'm saying that I intend to be a father to those girls and a partner to their mother. And I'm saying that if you can't accept that, if you can't welcome them into our family, then you and I have nothing more to discuss. You would choose them over your own mother? Over the company your father built? I'm not choosing anyone over anyone else, Ethan replied, his voice softening slightly. I'm choosing to live a complete life. You're welcome to be part of it, but only if you can respect my decisions and the people I love. Love, Eleanor repeated incredulously. You've spent, what, 2 days with these children? You haven't seen this woman in 8 years. This isn't love, Ethan, it's a midlife crisis. I'm 34, Mother, hardly midlife. Despite everything, Ethan found himself smiling at her predictable response. And yes, it is love. It's the same love I felt 8 years ago, the love you tried to destroy. I will not be spoken to this way, Eleanor declared. When you've come to your senses, you know where to find me. The line went dead. Ethan stood on the balcony for a long moment, watching the city lights twinkle against the snow-covered skyline. He'd expected to feel anger or resentment after confronting his mother, but instead, he felt strangely liberated. For the first time in his adult life, he had stood his ground with Eleanor Blackwood, had chosen his own path rather than the one she'd mapped out for him. When he returned inside, the twins were engrossed in an animated film about a brave princess. They'd made space for him in the center of the couch, a gesture that touched him deeply. Was that your mom on the phone? Sophie asked as he sat down between them. Yes, it was, Ethan confirmed, unsurprised by her perceptiveness. You sounded mad, Sarah observed. Did she do something wrong? Ethan considered how to answer. Sometimes grown-ups disagree about important things, he said finally. My mother and I have different ideas about what matters most in life. What matters most to you? Sophie asked, fixing him with her direct gaze. Family, Ethan answered without hesitation. Love. Being with people who make you feel like your best self. The twins nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense to them. What about your job? Sarah inquired. Mom says your picture is in magazines because you're important. My job is just what I do, not who I am, Ethan explained, the realization crystallizing as he spoke. For a long time I thought they were the same thing, but they're not. The twins seemed satisfied with this answer and turned their attention back to the movie. Ethan watched them instead of the screen, marveling at how quickly they had claimed space in his heart. The thought of his sterile, silent apartment without their presence was suddenly unbearable. That night, after the twins were asleep, Ethan made a decision. His penthouse, designed for entertaining business associates and impressing clients, was no place for children. It lacked warmth, character, and most importantly, space for a family to grow. What they needed was a real home. The next morning, while the twins ate breakfast, Ethan made a call to Rebecca Chen, the city's most exclusive real estate agent. I need a house, he told her. Something with a yard, multiple bedrooms, in a good school district. Something that feels like a home, not a showpiece. In Manhattan, Rebecca asked, sounding dubious. That's a tall order, especially with a yard. I'm flexible on location, Ethan replied. Brooklyn, Westchester, wherever makes sense for a family with young children. Family, Rebecca repeated, surprise evident in her voice. She'd helped Ethan purchase his penthouse 5 years ago and knew his preference for sleek, modern spaces, designed for a bachelor lifestyle. Yes, a family, Ethan confirmed. I need to see properties today, if possible. We're on a tight timeline. By the time they left to pick up Olivia from the hospital, Rebecca had arranged for 3 properties to be available for viewing that afternoon. Ethan had selected a few options from her listings that seemed promising. All spacious homes with character and outdoor space, located in family-friendly neighborhoods. At Mount Sinai, they found Olivia dressed and sitting in a chair by the window, looking much stronger than she had just days before. The twins rushed to embrace her, chattering about the movie they'd watched and the pancakes Ethan had made for breakfast. You cook? Olivia asked him with raised eyebrows as he gathered her meager belongings. Barely, Ethan admitted with a smile. But I'm learning. Dr. Harrison arrived with discharge papers and instructions for Olivia's continued recovery. Bed rest for at least another week, he emphasized. The pneumonia is responding well to treatment, but your body needs time to heal. No work, no stress, plenty of fluids and nutrition. Thank you, doctor, Olivia said, signing the forms, for everything. Mr. Blackwood has my direct number if you have any concerns, Dr. Harrison added. I'll want to see you for a follow-up next week. As they left the hospital, Ethan could sense Olivia's nervousness. She sat quietly in the back seat of his SUV with the twins, her hands fidgeting in her lap as they drove toward Manhattan. I thought we might look at a few houses this afternoon, Ethan said casually, turning to glance at her. If you're feeling up to it. Houses? Olivia repeated, confusion evident in her voice. My apartment isn't really suitable for 4 people, especially 2 active children, Ethan explained. I've asked a real estate agent to show us some options that might work better. Ethan, Olivia began, her voice low so the twins wouldn't hear. I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't let you buy a house for us. It's too much. Not for you, he clarified. For us. All of us. The implications of that statement hung in the air between them. Olivia studied his face, searching for any sign of hesitation or insincerity. She found none. This is happening very fast, she said finally. Too fast? Ethan asked, suddenly uncertain. If you need more time... No, Olivia interrupted, a small smile forming. Maybe fast is exactly what we need. We've already lost 8 years. The first property they viewed was a brownstone in Park Slope. Brooklyn, 4 stories of historic charm with bay windows and intricate moldings. While architecturally impressive, it felt formal and confined, the small backyard hemmed in by neighboring buildings. The second was a colonial in Westchester, set on 2 acres with mature trees and a swimming pool. It was beautiful but sterile, recently renovated to appeal to wealthy buyers, with more concern for resale value than comfort. The third property, however, made all 4 of them pause as soon as they stepped through the gate. Located in Riverdale, at the northernmost tip of the Bronx, it was a rambling Victorian with a wide front porch, colorful stained glass accents, and a sprawling yard with ancient oak trees. The house needed work. The paint was peeling in places, some of the woodwork needed restoration, but it had an undeniable warmth, a sense of history and possibility. It has a tree house, Sarah whispered in awe, pointing to a wooden structure, nestled in the lower branches of the largest oak. And a swing, Sophie added, already moving toward the tire swing hanging from another tree. Ethan watched as the twins explored the yard, their excitement palpable. Beside him, Olivia stood with her arms wrapped around herself, taking in the scene with wonder in her eyes. What do you think? He asked softly. It's magical, she admitted. Like something from a storybook. Inside, the house revealed spacious rooms with high ceilings, original hardwood floors, window seats perfect for reading, and a kitchen large enough for family meals. It had 6 bedrooms, a library lined with built-in bookshelves, and countless nooks and crannies for children to discover. The master suite featured a sitting area with a fireplace and a balcony overlooking the backyard. It needs work, Rebecca warned as they completed the tour. The electrical system should be updated. The kitchen is functional, but dated, and there's evidence of water damage in the attic. But structurally, it's sound. How soon could we move in? Ethan asked, his decision already made. Rebecca looked surprised but recovered quickly. It's vacant, with an all-cash offer, and expedited closing possibly within a week. Make it happen, Ethan instructed. Whatever it takes. While Rebecca stepped away to call the seller's agent, Ethan found Olivia in what would be the library, running her fingers along the bookshelves with a dreamy expression. You're really serious about this, she said as he approached. I've never been more serious about anything, Ethan confirmed. Olivia, when you left, I built a life that looked impressive from the outside, but was hollow at its core. I don't want to live that way anymore. I want noise and chaos and bedtime stories. I want to watch the twins grow up in this yard. Climb that treehouse, fill these shelves with books. And me, Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What do you want with me? Ethan stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Everything, he said simply. I want everything with you, Olivia. I want to wake up beside you every morning and fall asleep next to you every night. I want to argue about paint colors and whose turn it is to do the dishes. I want to build a real life, a meaningful life with you. Tears filled Olivia's eyes, but she was smiling. I never stopped loving you, she confessed. Even when I convinced myself I had to forget you, even when I tried to build a life with someone else, it was always you. Ethan brushed a tear from her cheek. Then say yes. Say you'll live here with me, raise the girls with me, build this life with me. Yes, Olivia whispered, and then more firmly, yes. Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might disappear again if he let go. After 8 years of emptiness, of going through the motions of success without any true joy, he had found his way back to the only woman he'd ever truly loved, and gained 2 remarkable daughters in the process. When the twins discovered them embracing in the library, they didn't seem surprised. Instead, they joined the hug, wrapping their small arms around both adults' waists, completing the circle of their newly formed family. Does this mean we're going to live here? Sophie asked hopefully. If that's what you'd like, Ethan replied, looking down at her earnest face. Will you live here too? Sarah pressed, her eyes serious. Yes, Ethan confirmed. We'll all live here together. The twins exchanged one of their silent communications before breaking into identical grins. Can we see our rooms again? They asked in unison. As they raced off to claim bedrooms, Olivia leaned against Ethan's chest. Are you sure about this? She asked one last time. It's a huge change from your life in Manhattan. I've never been more certain of anything, Ethan replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. This isn't a change, Olivia, it's a homecoming. Later that afternoon, as they stood in the yard watching the twins cautiously explore the treehouse, Ethan's phone rang. It was Eleanor again. After a moment's hesitation, he declined the call. There would be time for reconciliation with his mother, for introducing her to Olivia and the twins, for attempting to build bridges. But this moment, this perfect golden moment of new beginnings, belonged only to them. We're going to be happy here, Olivia said, not a question, but a declaration. Ethan squeezed her hand in response, watching as Sarah conquered her fear and climbed the ladder to join her sister in the treehouse. The February sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the old house and the new family it would shelter, casting everything in a warm, promising light. We already are, he replied. Spring had transformed the Riverdale neighborhood by the time they were fully settled in the Victorian house. Flowering dogwoods and cherry trees lined the streets, and in their own yard, daffodils and tulips pushed through the soil, bringing splashes of color to the previously neglected garden. The house itself had undergone a remarkable metamorphosis. While maintaining its historic character, Ethan had hired contractors to update the electrical system, renovate the bathrooms, and restore the original woodwork. The kitchen now featured modern appliances alongside vintage touches, creating a space where function met warmth. The library shelves groaned under the weight of books, classics, children's literature, and colorful picture books now intermingled with Ethan's finance texts. Most importantly, the house had become a home. Children's. Artwork adorned the refrigerator, a detailed chore chart hung in the mudroom, and family photos, both new and old, filled frames throughout the rooms. The twins' bedrooms, connected by a Jack and Jill bathroom, reflected their distinct personalities despite their identical appearance. Sophie's walls featured maps and educational posters, while Sarah had chosen a theme of woodland creatures and fairy tales. Olivia had recovered fully from her pneumonia and found a position as a senior translator with an international diplomatic agency, work she could do primarily from home with occasional visits to their Manhattan office. The flexible schedule allowed her to be present for the twins while utilizing her multilingual skills. As for Ethan, he had surprised everyone, including himself, by stepping back from his role as CEO of Blackwood Financial. He remained on the EC, board and maintained ownership stake, but delegated day-to-day operations to Jeremy Matthews, his longtime second-in-command. The decision had sent shockwaves through Wall Street, but Ethan found he didn't miss the 16-hour days or the constant pressure. Instead, he focused on strategic consulting for select clients and exploring philanthropic initiatives, particularly those supporting education and housing security for single-parent families. The relationship with Eleanor remained strained, but was slowly improving. After 2 months of silence following their confrontation, she had reached out with a tentative invitation to lunch. The meeting had been awkward but civil, with Eleanor making a visible effort to ask about Olivia and the twins without judgment. Since then, there had been occasional dinners, and even one visit to the Riverdale house, during which the twins had shown surprising patience with their potential grandmother's formal manner. "They'll win her over eventually," Olivia had observed after that visit. "No one can resist those two when they set their minds to something." Now, on a perfect May Saturday, the backyard of their Victorian home was being transformed once again. White chairs were arranged in rows on the lush green lawn, facing an eau arbor entwined with climbing roses and wisteria. A small string quartet set up near the treehouse, tuning their instruments in the dappled shade. Caterers bustled between the kitchen and the large tent set up for the reception, arranging flowers and placing settings on round tables. Inside the master bedroom, Olivia stood before a full-length mirror, smoothing the skirt of her simple ivory dress. Unlike traditional wedding gowns with their elaborate trains and veils, she had chosen a knee-length sheath with delicate lace overlay, elegant but practical for a garden ceremony. "You look beautiful, Mum," Sophie declared from the doorway, where she and Sarah stood in matching pale blue dresses, their auburn hair arranged in identical braids entwined with baby's breath. "Like a princess," Sarah agreed, twirling to make her own dress flare out. "Do we look okay?" "You both look perfect," Olivia assured them, opening her arms for a hug. The twins rushed forward, careful not to wrinkle her dress. "Are you nervous?" Sophie asked, ever perceptive. Olivia considered the question. "A little," she admitted, "but not about marrying Ethan, just about everything going smoothly." "It will," Sarah said with absolute certainty. "Ethan said he hired the best people to make sure everything is perfect." "And we practiced our parts 100 times, Sophie added. The twins would be walking down the aisle together, carrying small baskets of rose petals, before taking their places beside Olivia during the ceremony. A knock at the door revealed Diane, Ethan's former assistant, and now the twins' occasional babysitter. "The justice of the peace has arrived," she informed them, "and Ethan is asking if everyone is ready." "We are," Olivia confirmed, taking a deep breath. "Tell him we'll be down in 5 minutes." After Diane departed, Olivia knelt to be at eye level with her daughters. "I have something important to ask you both," she said, taking their small hands in hers. "You know that today Ethan and I are getting married." The twins nodded solemnly. "But there's another special thing happening today. Ethan has asked if he can legally adopt you both. That means he would officially be your father, not just in our hearts but on paper too. Would that be okay with you?" "He wants to be our real dad?" Sarah asked, her eyes widening. "He already feels like he is," Olivia explained. "But this would make it official. Your last name would change to Blackwood, like his." The twins exchanged one of their silent communications, a phenomenon that still fascinated Ethan and amused Olivia after all these years. "Yes," they answered in unison, breaking into matching grins. "We already decided he's our dad," Sophie added matter-of-factly. "This just makes it official for other people too." Olivia blinked back tears at their simple acceptance. "Well then, let's go get married and make our family official." Downstairs, the small gathering of guests had taken their seats in the garden. Though Ethan could have invited hundreds from his professional and social circles, they had opted for an intimate ceremony, with only those closest to them. Olivia's father and stepmother, who had reconnected with her after years of estrangement, a few of her colleagues from the translation agency, Ethan's closest friends from college, Jeremy and Diane from Blackwood Financial, and, somewhat surprisingly, Eleanor Blackwood, who sat stiffly in the front row wearing an impeccably tailored suit and a cautiously optimistic expression. Ethan stood beneath the floral arbor, his usual corporate attire replaced by a light grey suit that softened his appearance. The months away from the high-pressure world of finance had transformed him physically as well as emotionally. The perpetual tension had left his shoulders, and smile lines now outnumbered the worry lines on his face. When the quartet began, playing Pachelbel's canon, the guests turned to watch the twins make their entrance. Sophie and Sarah proceeded down the aisle with unusual grace for 6-year-olds, carefully dropping rose petals as they'd practiced. When they reached Ethan, each gave him a solemn high five, their own addition to the ceremony, unrehearsed but perfectly them. Then Olivia appeared, walking alone down the aisle. She had chosen not to be given away, explaining to her father that at 31, after raising twins largely on her own, she was giving herself freely to this marriage. As she approached, Ethan felt his breath catch. The woman walking toward him embodied everything he had been missing during those empty years: warmth, authenticity, purpose, and love. The ceremony itself was brief but meaningful. The justice of the peace, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes, spoke about second chances and families formed by choice, as well as blood. Ethan and Olivia had written their own vows, simple promises to support each other, to communicate honestly, to parent the twins together, and to never again let pride or fear separate them. After they exchanged rings, the justice announced, "Ethan has prepared special vows for Sophie and Sarah as well." The twins looked up in surprise as Ethan knelt to their level. "Sophie and Sarah," he began, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. "Today I'm making promises to your mom, but I want to make promises to you too. I promise to love you both as my daughters, to support your dreams, to answer your questions honestly, to read you stories even when I'm tired, and to always be there when you need me. I promise to be the best father I can be, every single day." He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 small velvet boxes. Inside each was a delicate silver bracelet sized for a child's wrist. "These are for you," he explained, as he fastened them on their small wrists, "to remind you of my promises." The twins examined their bracelets with wonder, then simultaneously threw their arms around Ethan's neck. "We promise to be the best daughters too," Sophie whispered loudly enough for the guests to hear, drawing affectionate laughter. "And to teach you all the languages we know," Sarah added seriously. "Even Russian, which is really hard," Sophie confirmed. Ethan laughed, wiping away tears as he stood to rejoin Olivia. The justice continued with the traditional pronouncement, and when Ethan kissed his bride, the twins cheered along with the guests. But the most meaningful moment came after the ceremony, when the family gathered with the justice and witnesses to sign the marriage certificate and the adoption papers. As the twins carefully printed their names on the documents that would legally make them Sophie and Sarah Blackwood, Ethan felt a sense of completion that no business deal had ever provided. The reception that followed was joyful and relaxed, with children running across the lawn, adults enjoying the spring sunshine and music drifting through the garden. Eleanor Blackwood, after initially keeping to herself, was eventually coaxed by the twins to join them in examining a butterfly that had landed on the dessert table. To everyone's surprise, she produced a small book from her purse, a field guide to North American butterflies, and began pointing out the distinguishing features of the monarch that had caught their attention. "Did you know your grandmother was a biology major before she met your grandfather?" Ethan asked the twins later, as they watched Eleanor naming the flowers in the garden for the girls. "She knows a lot about bugs," Sarah reported, clearly impressed. "And she said we can visit her house next weekend to see her butterfly collection," Sophie added. Ethan exchanged a meaningful glance with Olivia. Perhaps there was hope for that relationship after all. As evening fell, lanterns illuminated the garden, casting a warm glow over the remaining guests. The twins, exhausted from the excitement, had fallen asleep on a porch swing, still in their party dresses, their heads resting against each other. Ethan and Olivia stood hand in hand, observing their sleeping daughters from across the yard. "Are you happy?" Ethan asked softly, echoing the question Sophie had posed to him months ago in his penthouse. "Completely," Olivia answered without hesitation. "Are you?" "More than I ever thought possible," Ethan admitted, drawing her close. "Thank you for giving me a second chance, for letting me be part of your family." "Our family," Olivia corrected, leaning her head against his shoulder. 6 months later, on a crisp November afternoon, Ethan arrived home early from a meeting with the foundation he had established to support single parents transitioning to better employment. The house was quiet. Olivia was picking up the twins from their piano lessons, giving him a rare moment of solitude. He wandered through the rooms, appreciating the evidence of life and love that filled the once empty spaces. In the kitchen, a pot of soup simmered on the stove, Olivia's grandmother's recipe now a family favorite. The twins' backpacks hung on hooks by the door, their matching lunchboxes waiting to be filled for tomorrow. On the refrigerator, report cards displayed straight A's for both girls, alongside Sophie's winning science fair certificate and Sarah's colourful drawing from art class. In the library, which had become his favourite room, Ethan settled into the worn leather armchair that had quickly become his spot. The shelves around him held volumes in multiple languages, Olivia's collection, interspersed with children's books, photo albums, and the classics he had rediscovered since stepping back from corporate life. On his desk sat framed photographs, chronicling their new life together. The twins on their first day at their new school, Olivia laughing as she tried to teach Ethan basic French phrases, all 4 of them covered in paint after redecorating the girls' bedrooms, and most recently the professional family portrait taken for their holiday cards, the 4 of them smiling. Beneath the oak tree in the backyard, the sound of the front door opening announced their return, followed by the twins' excited voices echoing through the house. "Dad! Dad!" they called in unison, using the title that still filled him with wonder each time he heard it. "We learned a new song today." They burst into the library, cheeks flushed from the cold, still wearing their matching red coats. Behind them came Olivia, carrying sheet music and smiling at their enthusiasm. "It's a surprise for your birthday," Sarah explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "You have to wait until Saturday," Sophie added firmly. "No peeking at the music." "I wouldn't dream of it," Ethan assured them, rising to help them out of their coats. As the twins raced upstairs to practice their new piece, Olivia approached Ethan with a warm smile. "You're home early," she observed, stretching up to kiss him. "I missed you," he admitted simply. "All of you." Later that evening, after dinner had been eaten, homework completed, and bedtime stories read, Ethan stood in the doorway of the twins' room, watching them sleep. Though they had been offered separate bedrooms in the large house, they had insisted on sharing, unable to imagine sleeping apart after a lifetime of togetherness. In the soft glow of their nightlight, he could make out their identical, peaceful expressions, the rise and fall of their small chests, the stuffed animals clutched in their arms. These remarkable little people, who had approached him at the airport less than a year ago, speaking 9 languages and carrying the weight of adult worries on their small shoulders, now slept securely, knowing they were safe, loved, and provided. "Frasiumanda," as he closed their door quietly, Ethan reflected on how completely his life had transformed. The man who had once measured success in billions of dollars and business magazine covers now found his greatest achievements in a child's drawing proudly displayed on the refrigerator, in the sound of laughter filling rooms that had once echoed with emptiness, in the quiet contentment of family dinners and weekend outings to the park. Downstairs, he found Olivia in the library, curled up with a book in his usual chair. She looked up as he entered, her smile still capable of taking his breath away. "The girls are asleep?" she asked, making room for him to join her in the oversized chair. "Out like lights," he confirmed, settling beside her. "Piano practice wore them out." They sat in comfortable silence, Olivia returning to her book while Ethan gazed out the window at the moonlit garden. On the wall opposite them hung a framed child's drawing, the twins' wedding gift to them. In crayon and marker it depicted 4 stick figures holding hands in front of a large purple house. Above it, in careful block letters, were the words, "Our Family." It was, Ethan reflected, the most valuable piece of art he would ever own. Rain began to fall outside, pattering gently against the windows. In their old apartment, the twins had feared storms, worrying about leaks and cold and darkness. Now the sound of rain was simply nature's lullaby, the house solid and warm around them, their family safe within its walls. "What are you thinking?" "About," Olivia asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "How different life was a year ago," Ethan replied honestly. "How empty, despite having everything I thought I wanted." Olivia nodded, understanding without need for further explanation. "And now?" "Now I have everything I actually need," Ethan said simply, drawing her closer. "A home, a family, purpose, you." Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, washing the world clean, nourishing the sleeping garden, promising renewal and growth. Inside, surrounded by the evidence of love and connection that filled every corner of their home, Ethan Blackwood, once defined by his financial empire,